clock is fast.
Pick me up sometime though in chat.
All right, be good.
Yeah, Jeff, get out of here. Hello and welcome to the December 10, 2024 Planning Commission meeting. I need approval of the minutes for the November 12, 2024 meeting.
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Communications from the audience for items not listed as a public hearing on the agenda can come forward at this time. Next item is new business. 5651 143rd Avenue Master Plan map amendment to change designation from industrial to recreation parks. Applicant is Nate Bosch, ODC Network. And Nate is going to recuse himself at this time from this item due to a conflict of interest, but the other applicant from ODC can come forward at this time.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Dan Callum, Greenway Manager at the ODC Network. Just here to answer any questions you may have surrounding this proposed project on 143rd Street, roughly 20-acre site that we are looking to develop into park space as well as potential stormwater usage. So if there's any questions, happy to answer them. Otherwise, Steve had comments or thoughts on it.
Okay. Any questions from the applicant from commission members? No? Steve, you want to add on to this?
Sure, I'll make a few comments here. So you are being asked to amend the master plan map. So we are not proposing any text changes. So it is just the map. So in front of you, you have the current master plan map, which we just most recently approved about a year ago. So you can see that property on the south side of town. It is in the industrial designation for our master plan. The request is really to put it into the recreation park. So that is the light green designation, which would allow for, as Dan has indicated, the eventual future use of a park and their sort of stormwater that they've got proposed here. So as an industrially zoned piece of property, that use isn't permitted in that zoning district. So we, as staff, really thought the best method moving forward was to amend the master plan so we could have this discussion, amend the master plan to Recreation Park, which would then set it up for a request that would come to you for the rezoning to that property, of that property to an open space category. Without that, we really felt that the rezoning to open space without the master plan consistency, it would really fail the test for the rezoning criteria. So that's a long explanation of saying staff is in support of the idea of amending the master plan to the recreation park. I did highlight in the staff report as well that we really don't have any kind of recreation designation out in this part of town. There is some in the township nearby, but in terms of what's in the city, there really isn't any part of that designation. And some of the master plan goals and action items do talk about increasing the public recreation use in all areas of the city. And so again, we really felt like this request was consistent with the goals and objectives of the current master plan.
Thanks, Steve. Anything you want to add, Dan?
Don't think so. We would, work to incorporate, since this is on the south edge of the city, into our nature preserve across the street, and happy to have this service be officially in the city.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Any other questions from commission members for staff or applicant? No? Okay. This does require a public hearing, which I will open at this time if anyone would like to come forward from the audience. Since no one's coming forward, I am closing the public hearing.
And Brooke, if you don't mind,
Yes.
I guess just a quick mention. So as the master plan amendment process is a little bit more involved, we did have a 42-day hearing, notice hearing, so we did not receive any comment as a result of that other than some people telling us that they didn't receive the map with their notice. So we know the notices went out, but we didn't get any comments from the public in regards to the request.
Okay, no public comments, got it. All right, I need a motion or discussion.
So moved.
Support. Uh-oh.
Pick a Jennifer.
Either one.
All those say aye in favor?
Favor?
Opposed, same sign. No? All right. Thank you very much. Next item is 124 East 8th Street, Hope College Economics and Business Building Annual Parking Report. Hope College is the applicant.
So I don't see Hope College here, so maybe I'll just take a quick crack at this if you don't mind.
Okay.
So this is really following up on your approval of their building last year. And one of the things that we required as a result of that site plan approval was an annual report in regards to.
Steve, do I have to officially welcome Nate back?
That's very,
You could.
Okay. I didn't know if there was a legal reason why I had to.
Gone.
The conflict of interest is done, so Nate Bosch is returning. Okay. Yes. Resuming.
He's sitting down.
sorry, yeah, just jumping right in.
Forgot that you
So-
had to come back.
Hope was required, among other things, to provide you with this annual parking report. And so we thought, since this is the first one, and I think the way we actually left it was that they just have to submit that report to staff. But because this is really the first year after we approved it, we thought it might be nice to bring it to the whole planning commission, make sure we're all sort of getting what we expected. So this really wasn't an effort to sort of redo the whole parking discussion, really more just making sure that the information that they said they were going to do and some of the commitments that they made, that we were getting what we expected to get out of there. So in your packet, I tried to give you the original parking study that they did, and then you've got their report from November 26, 2024, which, as I went through it, I was quite pleased with, some of the things, especially on their short-term and midterm, some of the things they said they were going to do and work on, that they did. And so I thought they did a good job of reporting back from that original report. So I wanted to make sure you guys were happy with what you've received.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I kind of, in the same vein, appreciated the thoroughness of the whole report. I thought that they did a nice job of addressing some of the things that we had asked about in the meeting, I don't know, it was a little over a year ago now, about where people are parking, how, what sort of parking spot they're going to be allocating, how they're going to be offering more spaces for kids so that if they are displacing 200 and whatever the parking spot count was, that's actually going to other parts of campus. So I appreciated the kind of the first steps. I'll be interested to see how it continues to evolve once that parking becomes completely offline and they can start to really understand that more fully. But
It's hard to predict. Yeah.
I was interested that they included on-street parking as part of their available parking. Did that seem,
well,
That was from the original study?
well, I'm just looking here, that the
Oh,
available
yeah,
spaces
it's-
on street.
yeah, I think that made sense for like during the day parking counts, just because it is available throughout the day, but not
Well,
overnight.
then you could use any parking spaces. I thought we were just talking about the spaces that were actually Hope College spaces.
Right.
Are all the on-street, though, the ones that are in the ED district,
Yeah.
though?
I think that's what they were counting.
It's the
at.
only
oh,
the
they didn't count
on-street within the
anything.
They weren't
education
counting 8th
district?
Street.
Or
I don't
13th
think.
Street.
Yeah.
And the
I think
parking
the
spaces
report-
eliminated didn't have anything to do with on-street parking either. That was just the stuff where the building would be built.
So, but if they're talking about all of their available parking and they're including spaces that are available to the general public, it's simply
that really
because it's
valid?
around Hope College, that doesn't seem quite, like, it doesn't seem quite right to me that they would include those public spaces as spaces that are available. They're available, but not necessarily, they can't designate those spaces like
Yeah.
they can with all of the other ones.
Yeah, and
So
if
I
you-
wonder if you were to take out that those on-street parking spaces, where it would leave. It might be just a question to ask them.
And you're talking about in the midterm, new construction?
I think we're looking at the 2023 study right now,
Oh, okay.
where they did count, street parking, and they also counted the 7th Street ramp, I think, as part of that.
Yeah, and my recollection was that they were counting that as that parking is out there, but they
Yeah.
weren't necessarily taking credit for it, but just recognizing that that parking is also out there.
They weren't using that as their total count?
No.
Quick
No,
question
I don't
on the
believe so. I'd have to go back and look at that.
Well, it'd be a good question, because I think it doesn't help me much if it isn't included in the total count. Then, it just doesn't seem quite right to me to include those. It's sort of a misdirect almost, you know? I mean, I don't
It
suggest
is
they're
and it
doing
isn't
that,
though,
you
because
know?
I would say though, in the same regard, it's already being used by students in large majority because of campus residences and everything else that are occurring in that spot. So students will
But they
park.
can't count on that.
Right.
Right.
Correct, right.
Yeah.
The new building would take away parking that is just for Hope College.
Yeah.
Correct.
So they shouldn't be counting this on-street parking for their
Sure,
total.
correct.
When we're talking about the
Yeah.
the
Sure.
removal of parking spots
That's
that are
right.
only theirs.
Yeah, and my memory was that they weren't counting it, but they were just recognizing that, you
They're
know, hey,
there.
here's our parking plan, and oh, by the way, there also is parking in the deck and on the street, but they weren't counting it, but,
Okay. Good question to ask.
yeah.
Make sure that that's not part of the total.
Well, isn't
Oh,
there
it's-
an asterisk? Sorry, isn't there an asterisk that says this does not include on-street parking on page 5.2?
Was this in the
That's what I'm saying.
recent
Five.
report, or was this the original?
Parking within the main campus area adds approximately 455 spaces for day use.
Right.
So it is included.
They are counting them.
They are.
If you're using current parking capacity.
There's not two numbers. Good question to ask.
Can I,
Yeah, yeah.
For
So maybe-
clarification,
Yeah,
and from their conclusion, you know, they were well above the needed spaces to be able to manage parking on campus without affecting the surrounding community. Now, is that in there as a pun, or is it, I mean, anytime there's anything happening, be it the soup kitchen, be it the seminary has an event, there's no mention of how they're sharing parking with the other uses in their neighborhood. And I also included,
I do see the graph, which, I'm not sure which one you was pointing out, the asterisk.
Yeah.
so yeah, I believe in their summary and their conclusion, they're using
Yeah,
all available parking.
because they, on
Which-
page, 1, they talk about the 455 spaces for day use on the street, but then on page 2, then they say it does not include under
Yeah,
the.
page 5 too, it says, this does not include parking 455 spaces is what they have on-street parking, but I think it'd be good to have Hope
I do too.
represent it at a future meeting and just come back and go
Just to
through this with
confirm
us.
that.
Or they could just answer them, we don't need to have
Yeah.
them come and tell us, they can just send us a note,
Yeah.
or send you a note.
well, and maybe to circle back to their report that they just gave us as annual report, so you can kind of see of those commitments from that original report, you know, what they've done, how some of the numbers have worked out. I thought it was interesting that they indicate that the increase of the parking permit fees resulted in 150 fewer students bringing vehicles to campus. I mean, I thought that was interesting. That was one of their commitments from the report that they followed through on, so,
Well, but they did parking in the free on-street parking.
Exactly.
maybe, I hear what you're saying.
but they can't park on the on-street overnight. Right.
Yeah,
So-
right, sure.
Yeah,
Sure,
I
then
think Lynn's,
then they just pull them on the
Yes.
lawn, it's not a big deal.
Right. Any other questions, comments on that? Sorry, Steve, did I cut you off? No? Lynn?
Steve,
I-
do we know if the building is moving forward? Because this was a requirement for the economics building, and if so, when?
Yeah, so they're getting a little bit closer to their 18-month, time period for the site plan to be, approved. So they may need to come in and get an extension for that. It's my understanding they're still fundraising.
Okay. Vince, did you have a question?
Yeah, it's just, as they do move forward, they're gonna eliminate those spaces. Do they have plans to, I guess, just mitigate the impact of students once this building is built downtown? I mean, like, if I'm a student at Hope, there's a psychology of, I'm just gonna park on A Street. There's almost nothing to stop me from doing that.
Exactly.
And that's gonna take away from customer parking. I'm sure you guys probably had this conversation last year when I was not on the commission, but, yeah, I don't know if that's,
Well, I think
do they
that
have
was, that
plans
was
to
really
help with
the,
that, or
well, that
like,
was
or-
really the intent of us asking for the the report and to continue to have them monitor it, not just for getting the approval, but in continuation after for a few years, because I think that was the major concern was once this gets built and the proximity is gone, the likelihood that people will choose the path of least resistance is higher. And so how do we make sure that that's not happening so that there's, we're protecting downtown businesses from getting
yeah.
overloaded with parking?
They mentioned in their long-term considerations, the idea of maybe doing a deck near 13th Street. Have they considered a deck right on 9th?
Right.
Right in that backyard, because there's still parking there. That would solve it if there was dedicated whole parking there, but I don't know.
They're
Is
still
that
fundraising
something-
for the building.
Yeah.
I don't know if a deck is considered yet, but hopefully that's in the future plan and maybe that's a conversation to have.
Well, I think Nate answered it very nicely. I mean, that was sort of the conversation, and that was the reason why we wanted this to continue to be monitored. Because they did make commitments about, that not happening. And so, again, that was sort of the idea of having them come back and report back and see how some of these are going. Because, some of it probably will move around a little bit and see what's needed, what's not. So that was part of the reason of getting this on the agenda tonight.
But there's nothing for us to vote on. This was more for a report.
Yeah,
Right.
correct.
All right. Any other questions, comments on that one? No? All right. Next item on the agenda, Lakeshore Advantage, 65 East 7th Street, revised landscape plan. All right. And Jennifer Owens is recusing herself with the close connection to Lakeshore Advantage.
You think?
Everybody, so people who know me, who don't know me, I'm Jamie Scott, Deputy Director of Parks and Cemeteries for the City of Holland. Recently, Keith from Integrity Landscape contacted me. He had some concern about 2 trees, one on 7th, one on College, that were in the planting bed along the street, and they really conflicted with utilities. I had one tree that was going to be planted right next to a storm sewer or manhole cover, and another tree that was going to be planted next to a utility box. While you could get away with it and do it, the long-term viability of that tree is not good, and any future maintenance required as far as removal or stump grinding would not be good for the utilities and the tree itself, or any other new tree for that matter. Knowing the requirements of the said site and needing trees, I kind of brainstormed a little bit and thought the east side location of the building between the parking deck and the new building would be a good place to put trees. Did some research via Google Maps back in the day when the E&V building was still there, and there was a significant amount of evergreen trees that were there that were removed as part of the project. So I thought what better place to put those trees to satisfy the site requirements would be there. They're going to be my trees anyway to maintain, so whether or not they're on 7th and College or in between the parking deck and the building is a moot point. I still have to take care of them. So that's where I would like to see those trees.
So you're replacing the 2 with more?
No, we're not
No?
gonna put those trees on the street in those beds. Those planting areas are gonna remain vacant and be filled with landscaping. And then those 2 trees will then be or relocated, if you
Right.
will, to the other side.
But you're gonna do more than 2 or not?
No, just 2.
Just 2?
Just the
Okay.
2, yep.
All right. Any questions? Anything you want to add, Steve?
Udo gives you the ability to make changes like this.
Okay.
We certainly, try our best to identify these sorts of things early in the process, but So that's the reason why it's coming back here. Since you are the approving authority of this project, you do have the ability to alter the site plan, the landscape plan. And while we would typically want those planted on their property, as Jamie indicated, because they're going from city right-of-way to city property, that is also acceptable. So we're in support of the change, and we're recommending that we modify the site plan as they've shown.
Having roots by utilities is
Yeah.
not a
And
good idea.
I would defend Steve too, like, nobody missed anything. I mean, these things get designed all the time like this, and chances are they're gonna get planted like that. And just from a perspective of what we do in the city and the Parks Department, and having a little bit of forward thought and care to what's gonna happen in the future when I'm gone, is really what's driving all of this. So-
Longevity.
Exactly.
Right.
The viability of the trees is more important.
Yep. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion among commission members? Okay, does this require a motion?
Thanks.
Yes?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay.
Move to relocate trees as described.
Support.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. No one's opposed for trees. Glad to hear it. Wonderful. Just a new location. Great. Communication, oh, Jennifer Owens is gonna return. For the final
Come on back.
schedule here. Communications and petitions, scheduling of public hearings, there are none. Communications from commission members.
Other than happy holidays.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. Communications from staff.
I don't have anything.
You have a few things under there. Joint meeting on Tuesday, February 25, and then administrative site plan reviews under there. So, great. Anything new?
That's it.
All right. Motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.